We all know what Game 6 refers to.
The guy was in Game 6, 2 runs down, 2 outs, facing elimination.
Well, you're not even a fan. I was at Game 6. You didn't even watch it.
If I started talking with you about Game 6 with no other context, what's the first thing that you think of? It's probably this play, right? But what we forget is that Game 6 of the 1986 World Series was about more than the ground ball through Buckner's legs. Knowledgeable baseball fans will remind you that Bob Stanley's wild pitch set up the Buckner play, and even more knowledgeable fans will point out that Calvin Schiraldi had already pitched 2 innings before he came back out in the top of the 10th. But the big sticking point in this game, the one that tends to be overlooked, is the fact that Red Sox manager John McNamara took Roger Clemens out in the top of the 8th inning. That decision is our topic for today. Was taking Clemens out the right move? Now, the facts themselves aren't all that certain. If you read the Boston Globe from October 26, 1986, you'll see a number of quotations from fans who blamed the loss on McNamara taking Clemens out. Here's one. "We should have won. We should have had Roger Clemens in there," Dennis Farrick of Cambridge said. "I thought they had it. I hope Oil Can Boyd does it tomorrow, but I didn't want to depend on him." Here's another. "I wonder why they couldn't finish it off," said Neil Kane, 26, of Winthrop. "John McNamara could have had a bit more confidence in Clemens. They had it. I'm in total disbelief." And then finally, "I don't think McNamara should have pulled Clemens," Terrence Kelly of Braintree said. "They shouldn't play Buckner. He has 2 wooden legs, and Bob Stanley can't pitch." But this is where it becomes confusing. The Globe reported McNamara stating that he took Clemens out because of a blister. Clemens departed for a pinch hitter in the top of the 8th. "He developed a blister," said McNamara. "We have been checking him every inning, and we decided it was too bad for him to continue." McNamara stuck with this explanation for the rest of his life, stating that Clemens wanted to leave the game. Here's Keith Hernandez reporting what McNamara told him a few years later.
"Tell me that Roger wanted out." And he said, "Don't tell anybody." And I was shocked to hear that.
And here's what John's son Mike said in a podcast just a few years ago.
"And the truth is that Roger Clemens told my dad the truth about, whether he could finish the game or not."
Now, Clemens' Sabre biography states that he denied this. It says here, his second start came in Game 6 with the Red Sox holding a 3-2 edge in games, and he struck out 8 while surrendering only 2 runs, 1 earned in 7 innings. The Red Sox had a 3-2 lead when Clemens was lifted from the game for a pinch hitter in the 8th inning, but there was a controversy over the timing of his exit. Clemens had torn open a blister and had begun bleeding, and manager John McNamara later claimed that Clemens had asked out of the game as a result, a contention that Clemens and several of his teammates denied. And this is from Sabre's story on Game 6. A blister on Roger Clemens' pitching hand kept him from being effective with his breaking pitches, and he logged 134 pitches through 7 innings. But it was a time when the number of pitches was often ignored, and Clemens had thrown 10 complete games during the season while logging 155 2/3 more innings than the previous year, not even counting his 5 postseason starts covering an additional 34 innings. But with a runner on first and no one out in the 8th inning against McDowell, McNamara had Spike Owen bunt. Then he batted for Clemens with Mike Greenwell, highlight on green for the 23-year-old outfielder who had yet to play enough to qualify as a rookie. He fanned on 3 pitches. Now, yes, Greenwell was only 23 years old, but Clemens was only 24. Now, we need to make a few things clear. First of all, Clemens did have his breaking pitch.
As good an indication as we have in the early going, at least, is the inability for the moment of the hitters to get around on Clemens.
And it's pretty apparent that that ball, not only is it hard and fast, there's movement on it.
In fact, he had no-hit the Mets for the first 4 innings.
Roger Clemens was given a 2-0 lead and was pitching a no-hitter for 4 innings. The Mets finally got to him for hits and 2 runs to tie the game in the 5th, but they really let him off the hook, and he fought his way out of a corner with a run.
Second, Clemens had logged 134 pitches. True, pitch counts weren't followed as closely in 1986 as they are today, but I was unable to find, in the limited data I had, any starts in the 1986 regular season in which Clemens went substantially above 140 pitches. Just doing the math off the top of my head, I'm thinking he would have done maybe 160, 170 if he'd stayed in this game. Third, Clemens' body language when he was lifted for Greenwell is a bit strange and is open to interpretation. It doesn't look like he's begging to come out of the game, and yet this provides a stark contrast with the emotional explosions Clemens was prone to earlier in the season.
Hit to Buckner, and he will give it to Clemens. Wide throw, but he stayed. No, he missed the bag, and the run scores. And there goes Clemens. He is gone. Greg Cross kicks him out. We are going to have something here.
Now, if Roger Clemens were taken out of a game of this magnitude against his will, would he have gone down so quietly? If you listen to the local radio broadcasts, you can tell that taking Clemens out was a surprise. This is from the WPLM Red Sox broadcast. The Mets broadcasters, in contrast, thought Clemens was likely coming out when Spike Owen bunted Dave Henderson to second in the top of the eighth.
They must be planning to hit for Roger Clemens. I don't think Spike Owen would have bunted if they didn't plan to hit for him. He'll go back. Clemens will come out of the ball game with a runner on at second base and one down.
There's more to this story. The Mets had already gone to the bullpen. Roger McDowell, a right-handed pitcher, was on the mound. Mets closer Jesse Orosco, who had been brilliant in the postseason and who was left-handed, was in the bullpen and had warmed up a bit. However, the pitcher's spot was due up first in the bottom of the eighth inning. Davey Johnson's problem, though, is that he didn't want to make a double switch. He had already taken number 8 hitter Rafael Santana out of the game, putting in pinch hitter Danny Heap, and then shortstop Kevin Elster.
He is 22 years old. He was drafted by the Mets 2 years ago. Came up from Jackson AA, and he's the shortstop in a must-win game in the World Series.
He wanted to keep McDowell in the game through the end of the inning, and he wanted to keep Elster at short. Greenwell was a left-handed batter hitting against the right-handed McDowell, who was much worse against lefties than righties. In hindsight, this substitution may have been an attempt by McNamara to force Johnson to use Orosco now, either sacrificing the shortstop, Kevin Elster, for the double switch, or sacrificing Orosco at the end of the inning. Now, I've often wondered why Don Baylor didn't pinch hit instead of Greenwell.
Don Baylor, the designated sitter in the National League Park.
The answer? Baylor was right-handed. He was the wrong chess piece. Now, there is a bit of irony here. Mike Greenwell did come up to pinch hit.
Right.
He struck out on 3 pitches.
Good breaking ball.
2 of which bounced before they reached the plate.
And he chased another one. And Carter will tag him out.
I think Clemens could have done that. Jesse Orosco did wind up coming into the game in the top of the 8th inning.
He walks in, he may force Davey to make a move.
And he doesn't want to do it because then he'd have to hit for Orosco since he's leading off the bottom of the 8th. So this is a very big inning for McDowell.
He pitched to one batter, Bill Buckner, and threw him 1 pitch.
3-2 Boston. Henderson, Boggs, and Barrett out on the line. High fly ball. Dykstra has it under control.
Buckner flew out to center field, and Orosco came out for another pinch hitter, Lee Mazzilli. So Johnson did lose, and McNamara also lost in that chess game of wits. But the question still remains, which is, was taking Clemens out when he was taken out really the right decision? I mean, what would you have done? I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have left him in. Now, this is if I'm playing with the sim game. I mean, if you got the guy in front of you in real life, I know there's a lot of different things you need to think about. If we're playing in a sim game and this comes up, I'm leaving my man in. I want my best pitcher on the mound during a moment like this. When it comes to the lefty-righty matchup, I'm not sure. It depends on which game you play. I could see putting Greenwell in if you're trying to trap the opposing manager, which is exactly what McNamara did. The amazing thing is that though McNamara continues to get a lot of criticism for making this decision, his strategy worked. Orozco did come into the game and was wasted for the Mets. But I want to hear what you think. What would you have done in this situation? Would you have made the move and take Clemens out? Would you have sent him back out to pitch? And do you think that Clemens really wanted to come out? I'm interested to know what you guys think, and I'll talk with you again tomorrow. Bye.